So I am showing you the old laser model from K-Laser, the 1200 series. Now, if you didn't know, K-Laser just changed up a lot of their models, and it's now kind of like this platinum sort of branding, new casing, or new module sort of exterior. So there's some differences now, and this was just maybe just like a year or so ago that they just made this switch over. So I'm actually selling with my distributor, who gets all kinds of major lasers from usually just like a year or two old, all kinds of major brands, which we have third-party tested over in Florida with an engineering firm. But this is just one of the old K lasers. And again, we can show you exactly what kind of conditions it's in because it's fully tested. And so with K-Laser, I'm usually advising most people try to go for used K-Laser if they want to get that brand, quite simply because in my critique of this brand, again, I review and research all brands and models. I think that the K-Laser is just a little high priced, and that is the cost per watt. Your key amongst when you're trying to compare lasers, and I actually have a website with my distributor where we do that, give you a lot of free information. If you're comparing, let's say, a K-Laser, okay, to a cutting edge laser, and you fill this out, and you send it off to us, and we give you that information, one of the many things you want to look at is what is the cost per watt of the K-Laser? What is the cost per watt of the cutting edge laser? And to know that, you have to calculate the average output power. So, and by the way, check back with us in, probably this year and even next year if you are totally sold on K-Laser, of which I wouldn't necessarily advise it. We can sell you certainly a new K-Laser, but check back with us also because we probably will have some of the new models that are used, as some practitioners may want to trade those in for either a new one or a different brand. And that definitely is likely to happen because we're very busy across the entire United States. But calculating your average output power and your amount per diode is the key, and also factoring in the duty cycle. So if you wanted, again, to compare to, like I say, a cutting edge or some of these other ones, and obviously we do this for you, by the way, you don't have to, but I'm just a little quick education because a lot of the sales reps from some of these companies can be a little misleading by not giving you all the data. But if you're saying, hey, this H1 looks pretty cool, and it says 15 watts, okay, you don't have all the data you need, actually, to really make an apples to apples specification comparison. So don't get lost on all the fancy features here or even on their other pages. You need to say, hey, out of this 15 watts, I see you have 3 wavelengths. These are 3 separate diodes, okay, in the machine, inside the module. And you can ask them, hey, out of this total 15 watts, how much power is putting in that near infrared 810? Or how much power of the 915 am I getting? Some of you guys may be researching 915 and 810. And by the way, there are a couple brands that sell a true dual where you can adjust the power level separately on the 915 and 810. Pretty cool. You can actually, with a couple other brands, you can't do that with this brand. It's just a fixed split. So that's why you would ask how much power is going to this, how much power is going to that, how much to that. Now, depending on the sales rep you talk to, sometimes they either won't give you the answer, sometimes they will give you the answer. And I've commonly heard that they'll say, oh, it's 15 watts 810 and 15 watts 915. But that's not true because it's fixed. So if this was fixed at, say, 6 watts, right? Why would you have a 15 watt diode if you know that laser on an 810 was going to go to a max 6? So they'll give you kind of answers all over the place. But the bottom line is, and by the way, the 650, if some of you are interested in red treatments, there's actually a stronger device out there that's small battery and handheld, very cool. It has a very strong 650. The 650, when you see it with their devices of K-Laser, that's really an aiming beam because it's visual, red wavelength. You can see it. So when it goes on the skin, wherever you're treating, you see a red dot. These are invisible, okay? So this is another kind of like little tricky thing with them. This is not necessarily a therapeutic level. Okay, this is an aiming beam. So when they sell it to you, it's like, oh, it's all these therapeutic wavelengths, but really, this is so low. It's just so you can see where you're aiming the thing. It's not designed to be therapeutic. Are there studies on red wavelength? Of course, that's some of the first studies. There's lots of clinical studies on red wavelength. But if you are pursuing, again, those benefits, I would suggest another laser, and they can give you a lot more red. And obviously, if you want near-infrared benefits, obviously stick with like a class 4 or something like this, or some other models that mainly focus on near-infrared. So the other piece of information that you don't have here, and that they're not always willing to give you unless you actually request it, is the duty cycle. Duty cycle. You always need to know this when you're comparing lasers. That has to do with how the internal module components, the optronics, are turning off and on that laser. So it's a type of pulse. So that's why it's a little confusing. It is a type of pulse. In other words, with K laser, it actually has a 50% duty cycle. So that means that that laser is going to spend half the time on and half the time off. Boy, isn't that interesting to know. So what does that mean? So that means you actually have to go back to 15 watts, or let's go to platinum 4 for a second, where you're going to spend a whole bunch of money. And we say, oh, it's 24 watts. Well, that sounds pretty powerful, right? Well, it's actually first distributed across these wavelengths. Second, you need to divide by 2, because remember, half the time it's off. I know, it's surprising, isn't it? And then you figure out, oh, okay, well, then I'm only getting that amount of power to distribute amongst this 3, because this is just an aiming beam. And good luck, first off, trying to get those numbers. Hopefully you can. Then you can actually calculate the fact that, this is the last piece, is what's my cost per watt? Now that I figured out it's actually 12 watts across this, and you actually have to calculate your cost per watt per actual wavelength. Are you getting a little confused yet? Are your eyes starting to gloss over? But we already do this work for you if you just go to comparelasers.com. But I'm just giving you a deep insight here that this company, K-Laser, is just killing it in the industry right now. They advertise like maniacs. They're probably the most well-known brand in the industry. A lot of practitioners are always buying them, but they don't even know what they're buying. They don't even realize what I'm talking about right now, so pay attention. Then you'll actually consider, should I buy this laser from these guys, from us? Should I buy a used one? Or should I get one of these other brands that they sell? We'll help you do that comparison. But what this means here, when these are fixed levels, therapeutically, first off, there are no clinical research studies comparing when you add multiple wavelengths to treat a condition, let's say frozen shoulder, whatever, or treat some part of the body, versus treating that area of the body with just an 810 or just a 980, just a single wavelength. So there's no studies, I'll say it once again, showing efficacy, showing superior therapy outcomes or inferior at running multiple wavelengths on a tissue versus something that delivers a single wavelength. I mean, there's a lot of lasers that just deliver single wavelengths. Here's one. There's many that we sell. It's most common to find lasers that do just a single wavelength. But there's a few brands. There's also Lightcure that does a dual wavelength as well, just FYI. But just so you know, okay, so first off, these companies will try to sell you on the concept of you're going to spend a lot more money because we're more therapeutic because we're offering multiple wavelengths at the same time. Well, if you're a company making bajillions of dollars like this one, you would think that they might fund some sort of even university studies proving this concept. Wouldn't you think? And even the other devices out there, the other lasers that offer multiple wavelengths, like cutting-edge lasers, which you might have heard about, that do their MLS laser therapy, which sounds really fancy. But you'd think, with the millions made again, that they would have some studies that were done. That is not the case. One has to wonder why. Right? So when you have separate lasers like this is how I want you to imagine so you understand what you're buying here, okay? If this is 24 watts, this does not perform the same as buying a single wavelength 25-watt laser, of which there's a few other companies that sell that. So it's not the same as buying a full continuous wave 25 watts delivered through a single handpiece diode, and you're treating a specific localized area. Okay, your therapy outcomes are not going to be the same as something that's 12 watts distributed amongst these. And there's several reasons for that, without even the need to do studies. It's just not the same. That's not the same function on how that energy is distributed. So when you buy something like this and it's split amongst three, this is what it's like. It's like you purchased a 980 laser. Then you purchased a 915 laser. So imagine you have these lasers in the separate handpieces, the probes, okay? Imagine you have multiple of these. You also bought an 810. There are varying power levels. Imagine that you took a rubber band and you wrapped it around those three handpieces, and then you shone it. You're shining it on one specific area. That's what it's like. It's not like you got a 980 that was 24 watts or 25 watts or 20 watts or 30 watts, and we're delivering all that power through that 980. That is going to perform differently. It's going to penetrate and saturate the tissues differently than having three, in a sense, separate lasers, separate diodes, shown on the same area, okay? And we can dive into that further if you want to reach us on comparelasers.com. If you're trying to compare like a K laser or one of our used ones to a different brand. But what I'm highlighting right there, almost nobody will tell you in this industry. You certainly won't hear it from a K laser person or anybody selling one. You certainly won't hear it from any other company selling a multi-wavelength laser. But you know what? You've heard it from me and my distributor, who's actually selling a K laser. Think about that. We're not bullshitting you here. We'll happily sell you a used K laser, for example, but we're going to tell you what you're actually buying. That's all. And we might also tell you that you might be better suited or might be a better value to go with a different brand. But we're going to let you decide and still offer a satisfaction guarantee policy. So I can hope that you can appreciate, if you've been doing some research in this industry for a while, that nobody talks to you the way I'm talking to you. Nobody's more transparent or honest about these various brands, and who are actually willing to compare them for you, willing to say what's the pros and the cons of each of them, who sell all of them, who've used them out in the field for at least 15 years, seen real-world results with all these different models and devices, who've collected all that research data, and still don't want you to get stuck with a laser you're not satisfied with, who will offer you that satisfaction guarantee policy. So I currently think, myself and my distributor, we're offering a service and value that is untouchable currently by anybody else in this industry. And if you think anybody else is doing a great job, let us know. Maybe we'll partner with them. But this industry is challenging for consumers, as I'm sure you've already found. There is a lot of shady stuff going on, a lot of dishonesty, a lot of marketing bullshit, and that's what we do. We just cut through all that and we educate people about that so that you can have an informed purchase decision. Make sure you get the right laser and don't suffer buyer's remorse. And by the way, people watching this video, I'm sorry if you've already gotten buyer's remorse, because I happen to tell you a few things about your K laser that you didn't know. I'm very well known for creating buyer's remorse in this industry as well. So come to me first before you make your purchase, and you can avoid me putting out some videos down the road, and hopefully you did make the right decision and you got a good brand. But anyways, thanks for watching. If you have any questions, you can find us in this laser site right here. We also have another website as well in the YouTube description below. And also feel free to leave any questions in the comments on the YouTube. If you don't want to go through, filling out this form, no worries. Or you can just text us, that's fine too. Anyways, happy to help. Thanks for watching.